Okay, I think we can make a start, and then if people are joining as we go, we'll just let them in. And this is going to be recorded, so we're going to upload this onto our YouTube channel, and then whoever's missed it, or if you guys want to revisit it, you guys can check it out there. So thank you for joining our Study Smart seminar. My name is Ryan, and we have another speaker.
Andrew.
Yeah,
I'm Andrew.
and we're going to be talking to you guys about basically how you can study smarter at a senior level. I think studying is a very foreign concept as a junior student. However, as a senior student, it's going to become a thing you guys need to start doing, studying. Okay, so we're hoping that we can provide you with some tips, particularly for maths and English today. And if you can adopt even one of these tips into your study habits, that'll be great, right? So yeah, I'm just going to take you guys through maths to start off with. So I'm just going to go on mute and turn my camera off, and then I'll take you guys through English study tips in the second half of the lesson or the seminar. If you guys have any questions for us as we speak, just drop it in the chat, or even unmute your mic if you want. And yeah, so we'll get started. I'm just going to go on mute now and hand it over to Andrew.
So hey, hello. Okay. Oops, am I muted? No. Okay. Hey everybody, my name is Andrew. I'm currently a student USID studying education, majoring in maths and Japanese, and minoring Japanese. I got an E4 in Extension 1 as well as attended Sydney Technical High School. So let's just cover through what HSC Maths Exam will look like. Now, in your school exams, the HSC exam follows similar to how the HSC goes. So you have usually 10 multiple choice questions, as well as 4 to 6 extended response question areas, depending on which exam you take. And the difficulty of the exam isn't just linear. It doesn't just go from easy to hard all the way through. Usually it starts off pretty easy for the multiple choice questions. It will start off easy and it'll progressively get harder until the last multiple choice question. But then once you flip over to the next question, question 11, where you do more of extended response stuff, the difficulty kind of resets and then gets harder and harder until you finish that section, and then until the end of the exam. So it's not just linear, it does reset. It looks something like the graph you can see on the screen right now. So that's what HSC exam will look like. Let's go to the next slide. So some common mistakes students like to make when they're preparing for maths is they like to memorize every formula. Memorizing formulas is ideal. However, you are provided a formula sheet with most, if not all, of the necessary formulas in the course. Some things that people do is that they memorize the formulas without actually understanding the key idea behind the content. So just memorizing is not really going to be helpful. Other common mistakes when people come to when it comes to studying maths will be cramming textbook questions before an exam, doing a lot too many questions but not enough, too many easy questions and not any harder questions, redoing past papers that they've already done before, as well as people not really being consistent with their math study. Why? Sorry. So I think I just got my slides in the wrong order, my bad. So what should be done instead in these situations? Well, in my opinion, the best strategy for studying maths is to have like a long-term strategy to improve, to be able to succeed in what you're going to be doing. So my biggest tip, in my opinion, is to understand the bigger idea of each topic that you're going to be covering in the course. For example, a lot of the topics in maths actually kind of relate to each other. You have trigonometry, you have calculus, projectile motion. All of those topics come in together, even though they're taught as separate things. You have to understanding how each of those topics will come together to making this a slightly more complex idea will actually really help you with your problem solving and stuff. For example, it's like understanding, it's like how learning math is like how a musician like learns music theory, and all the notes between like the chords and the relationships between those chords. Maths is really similar. You learn one idea and then you try to utilize it together to help you solve other problems by linking those different tools that you learn, concepts and ideas together. And of course, practice. Learning the theory is really important, but it's not helpful if you don't apply the maths that you just learned. Being efficient with the type of questions you do for homework. So, like I said earlier, people tend to a lot of just textbook questions before an exam. But if it's just foundational questions like basic algebra, like x plus 1 equals to 10x minus 9 or something like that, doing a lot of those questions is not really going to help you if you already know how to do those questions. So you should be picking more harder questions. For example, if you're doing trigonometry, rather than just looking at just trig ratios, look at more like trig equations, how to solve trig equations, how that links to other topics in maths as well. So trig equations usually ends up linking back with like algebra, like quadratics and stuff like that. All sorts of stuff like that will connect together, and seeing all those links will allow you to do better problem solving questions. So be efficient with the type of questions you do for homework. And of course, practice. So practice, do a lot of practice, but it has to be quality practice and not just a lot, right? It has to be in-depth kind of questions. Maximize your time, you know? So, like I said earlier, similar to how a musician understands how the relationships between different notes makes us feel, going to the heart of each concept in maths allows for an intuition that will do as well problem solving. So note taking. This is one thing I would like to talk about real quick. As an exam approaches, note taking should not be a focus when it comes to your exam, because if ideally you should have been like, if you were doing all of your homework as you were learning the content, you shouldn't really need to be revising past course content, as you should just be applying and practicing these questions. But if you really do need to keep some notes for like harder concepts that you might find harder to understand, you should try to keep them to a minimum. And instead of just doing homework, chapter reviews are a wonderful resource that has basically every single all of the different types of content that you might need covered in those questions in textbook chapter reviews. So, and of course, just practice. I'm gonna keep drilling this idea in, but practice really is the biggest part of doing well in maths. Okay, let's see. Next slide. Some more tips I'd like to just quickly cover. When you're doing notes, I recommend not just writing words. Some topics in maths, you can summarize really well into graphs, drawings, or tables, as tables, graphs, and drawings. One example could be, let's say, projectile motion. If you're doing extension 1 maths, projectile motion, you can sum up all the different stuff that you might need with just a single graph. What is the horizontal component? Say, what is the vertical component? Drawing a picture of how you'll break that down and where it comes from will simplify a lot of your note taking, and also make it it's really easy to write it down as well as having everything there. Another thing will be, say, trig, or stuff like your unit circle. All of that information can also be put into a table for you to easily digest. So like I said earlier, some problems, rather than doing just a lot of questions, like foundational type questions, it will be nice if you were to try to find some problem solving questions. What I mean is questions that will involve multiple different topics in maths into one question. Some examples would be 3D trig. 3D trig questions tend to be one of the worst enemies to a person taking the HSCs, because sometimes it's really hard to see. But these kind of questions cover a lot of your trigonometry stuff, like your bearings, your 3D trig, and stuff. More difficult visualizing the spatial stuff about these questions and bearings. What else is there? Sometimes they do the sum of angles of your trig and cosine rule, sine rule, all sorts of stuff they will like to utilize, put it together into these kind of questions. Other questions could involve graphing with calculus, graphing weird functions that you don't really see, that not often. They test you on your algebra skills, or while testing whether you actually understand what you're doing, rather than just rote learning the method to do these kind of questions. Of course, projectile motion, you're playing with vectors, but you're also playing with calculus as well. These kind of questions are ideal because it's helping you be efficient with your studying. Some different questions, a lot of different questions in maths can be solved in different methods. So experiment with different types of questions and find a method that will help benefit you when solving questions. Yeah. Now, I know your math teachers probably have drilled this in, but the next biggest tip I can say is get really good at structuring out your working out. I think some students don't write enough working out. I think working out is really, really important when it comes to just the HSC and just working with maths in general, because it shows your steps, it shows your understanding, first of all. But in case you make a mistake, in case you realize in an exam you made a mistake, you can always try to look back at your working out and try to fix up, try to spot your error and fix it up. Whereas if you didn't write anything, it's really hard to see where you went wrong. But also, the HSC is not just testing you for you to get the right answer. They want to test your understanding. So the way they test you for whether you understand what the hell you are doing in exam is through looking at your working out. Most of the times, most of your marks just come from your working out. Even if you get your question wrong, you can get a lot of marks from just getting good working out, and maybe get it wrong, or lose 1 mark because of a calculated error or something. It usually carries forward and you get those marks. Over here is like example of good setting out. Labeling every single step, seeing what you're doing, giving a reason why you'll do this. For example, over here, I showed that at this point, it is less than 0. So I put a negative sign in front of this equation or something to help show the marker I'm not just randomly applying what I already know as like a method that I memorize, but also showing that I understand that this question requires me to understand that I have this restriction to applied to it. Applied. Okay. Okay, so as the HSC approaches, I think we're heading to week 5 right now, week 6, week 5. Anyway, and this is the time where for senior students, people who are taking HSC, is like a really busy time. It's gonna be really tough balancing, if especially you have English heavy subjects. It's gonna be kind of hard to balance, have a nice study plan to cover everything that you're doing for the HSC. But in general, math study should not be reliant on notes, and it should all just come down to past papers. So usually for most schools, by the time it's week 5, you're either still going through the course or you have completed all course contents, course content. This is where you begin working on revision by doing chapter reviews. Either that or you write quick summary notes, but chapter reviews will be your best friend to quickly just revise on everything from year 11 to year 12. After that, by doing chapter reviews, you're also getting practice, of course. But after week 6, if you're still going through the course, continue on doing homework exercises, get that practice in, learn the content as well. But if you do not have any more homework, this is where you just begin grinding past trial papers, whether it be from your school or you go online, finding other schools' resources on trial papers and just start grinding them out. I would recommend you should be doing at least, I recommend, let's say 3 past papers, 3 trial papers a week. Eventually you might run out, so you have to space it quite a bit. Also, you want to balance your other study as well. So you don't need to do like, say, 5 papers a day or anything. Just do 3 a week or something. And you should be okay. And then just rinse and repeat. But as the term starts to end around week 8, you should also start looking at the HSC papers. Because there aren't that many HSC papers, you should just pace them out a little bit toward, as you approach the HSC exam. But have a look at the HSC paper. See how it compares to trial papers you have done. And just familiarize yourself with what real exam problems could look like. And then, of course, rinse and repeat. Trial papers are your best friend. They really do just replicate the HSC like really well. It's gonna be fairly identical. And also, they usually generally offer harder questions for you to try to complete. So trial papers will be your best friend. If generally what I like to do was I went to other higher ranking schools and just grab their papers and see what I could do. Finish a paper. So how you should be doing these trial papers is just treat it like a normal exam. You want to get your time management down, as well as seeing what you need improvement on, right? But if you don't know a question, just skip it. So some more general like exam taking advice is just skip questions you don't know, because you're going to be wasting a lot of time just thinking about some question you don't understand, when you could do some other questions that you could get some free marks on. Once you finish the trial paper, though, mark it, as well as especially for the question you don't understand, look at the work solutions, see how they did it, and try to see how you could have seen where they got that piece of insight that helped them solve certain questions. And if you don't see it, try to think again about the bigger picture of what you of the topic you were doing in the course. Like I said, understanding the big picture really does help you build like an intuition on how to solve different problems. Okay. So I think that is really it for maths. Does anybody have any questions before we maybe move on to English? No? Okay. Hey, Ryan, are you still there? Okay.
Yeah, I am here. Sorry, I just have to take remote control from you.
Yep.
Could you pass?
Okay, just give this up to you.
Just pass it back to me, and then you can go on mute. All right, cool. Thank you, Andrew, for that. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm going to take you guys through English study tips. Andrew, would you mind just turning off your camera as well so it focuses on mine? Okay, cool. So hi, everyone. I'm Ryan. I'm going to be taking you guys through English. So I know English is something that we all hate and we all hate studying for. We all probably don't know how to study for it either. So I'm hoping that these tips that I give you today can just really point you in the right direction of how you can be studying for it more effectively as well. So again, this is a whole study seminar about studying smart. So we want to help you study smarter. So a little bit about me. I'm currently studying at UCID and I'm doing psychology and neuroscience. So if any of you guys might want to head down this path as well, feel free to reach out for some advice. And I achieved a band 6 in advanced and extension English. So hopefully that means I know what I'm talking about when it comes to studying for English. And yeah, I also went to Caringbah High, if any of you guys know that school. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so with English, and this is generally for English advanced / standard, if you're doing English extension or extension 2, your exams are going to look a little bit different. But what you can basically expect to see in your HSC exams, you'll be writing 3 essays and you'll be writing a creative, discursive, or persuasive. You will also be doing short responses as well. And at an extension level, you'll be doing a response to an unknown stimulus and also an essay with reference to 3 texts that you study throughout year 12. And then obviously with extension 2, you will have the major work. So it's a very different layout for extension 2. These study tips are more going to be towards standard, advanced, and extension English. So yeah, let's get started with that. Okay, so firstly, why is it important to study for English? This might sound like a very general and stupid question, but it's not, because a lot of students aren't studying for English. So I want you guys to know that it's very important to study for English, because English is the one that takes the most time, okay? Regardless of how good you are at English, a lot of the time English practice takes so much time because you're writing full-length essays, right? It's not just like answering a math question or answering a chemistry or bio question, right? English takes a lot of effort to prepare for and a lot of effort to actually do well in, okay? So there's this common trend where students are leaving English to the very last minute and they're not really starting early. And I don't know why, because English takes a lot of time, like I've just said. So it's really important that we start studying for English early and learn to properly prepare for it while doing so. Okay, so some common misconceptions when studying for English, or just some common mistakes that students are making. We've listed out the 5 that we think are the most common, which is doing large and unnecessary amounts of waffle research. And I'll go into more depth about what we consider as waffle research. Rereading your text a large amount of times, collecting too many notes without condensing them, completing large amounts of useless questions and activities, and essay writing on the spot. So let's kind of unpack each one and talk about the more in depth. Okay, so let's start off with doing a large amount of research on context. Now, this isn't to kind of say that context is not important. It is, it's very important, and you should very much understand the context behind your text, right? But you don't need to have a great understanding of the whole historical era. You know what I mean? Like, you need to kind of pinpoint which context is the most important and relevant to your text and its plot and its key ideas, and just condense that and use that for your essays. You don't need to know like a whole history textbook about whatever era a text was written in. So it would be useful to use resources such as ATAR notes, or like specific booklets that have condensed this content research, or go through the context that you've been given at school to find the ones that relate to your key ideas that you want to explore. Rereading a text. So it's good to actually read your text at least once, okay? Like, I know a lot of students aren't reading the text in terms of writing the ones that they're writing essays for, and this is not a good habit. Please read your texts, okay? But once you've read it once, maybe even twice, I wouldn't necessarily say to read it more than that, unless you just like reading for fun, okay? Rereading a text is not going to help you improve that essay writing, okay? It might help you understand the plot better, but it's not going to improve your writing skills. Poor note-taking. Your notes shouldn't be overloaded with useless information, okay? You will probably get a lot of different notes from school. You might find a lot of different notes online. You might get a lot of different notes from your tutoring lessons as well. But all these notes scattered around is not going to be useful to you in any way. You need to make sure that you're going through your notes and actually condensing and picking out the useful pieces of information that you will need for your essay writing, or whatever assessment tasks you come across within your year 12 or year 11, even like assessment tasks, okay? So it's really important that you are choosing your information wisely and actually taking the time to like understand that as well. I feel like if you're taking the time to kind of pinpoint the key points that you need, you are also taking the time to actually learn about the notes that you're given, and you're not just going to like chuck away a bunch of resources and leave them on the side and never touch them again. Useless questions. I find that within high school, you know, sometimes you get a lot of different activities that aren't very useful, and I guess the rationale behind them is to help you understand the text better and such like that. But doing character profiles and like make a Facebook page for a certain character in a text isn't necessarily going to help you towards your HSC. So it's really important that you're focusing on the right type of practice, and that comes with practice responses and practice essays. Because essentially, these are the kind of assessment tasks that you will be doing within your senior years. So it's really important that you are practicing well for them. And by that, it would just be like practice short responses, practice extended responses, and practice essay writing. Okay, so let's talk about how we can improve our studying habits and what we should be doing. So I like to think of this as English essentials. So these are the kind of study tips that I would say is fundamental to studying smart for English. Okay, so keeping your notes organized, trying different styles of questions, using your teachers to actually forecast your mark, memorizing bodies of analysis, okay, not just writing on the spot, and time management. So let's unpack this a little bit more. Okay, so keeping your notes organized. English is a very content-heavy subject, okay? It is a very content-heavy subject, yet students just leave all their notes sprawled out everywhere. They don't really organize them, okay? And maybe I just like keeping things organized, but I think to study effectively, you need to make sure that you have all your notes organized and you have everything ready to go that you will need for your exams. You don't want to be a week before your exams scrambling through 50 pages of resources trying to find useful bits of information. Okay, if you throughout the term have consistently gone through your notes, kept them updated, kept them organized, okay, that will help you succeed in terms of by the time your exams come around, you will have everything you need to prepare, and chances are that will just be writing an essay. Trying different styles of questions. Okay, so when it comes to the HSC or when it comes to your senior level exams, you're going to be getting a lot of essay responses, whether you like it or not, okay? These essays will be answering a certain question. These questions will come from the rubric that you're studying from. The question you get on the day will be completely unknown to you. However, this isn't entirely true, right? You're going to have a rubric that these questions are based off of. And if you continue to practice a lot of different questions based off that rubric, chances are you will practice a question that might be similar to your actual exam question. If you've already practiced it, then your exams will be very easy because you've already practiced it at home, you've gone through it, you know what you need to do to answer it. So by broadening your horizons and answering different styles of questions, you're preparing yourself for success. Using your teachers to forecast your marks, okay? Your teachers are there to help you, not only your tutors, but your actual school teachers, right? You should be approaching your teachers with written essays and asking for feedback when you can. Remember, they are the ones that are marking your assessment. So it's really important that you're actually utilizing their tips and their knowledge and expertise and applying it into your own writing. I remember in my high school years, my teacher got so sick of me because I think almost every week I'd hand her some sort of response and just ask, can you read over this and give me feedback? Genuinely, she told me that she got sick of me. But in saying that, she did help me improve a lot. Okay, so I really want you guys to be utilizing your teachers. They are there to help you. Write them a nice email and just say, hey, sir or miss, I've written this response and I was just wondering if you could take the time to go over it and let me know how I can improve. And genuinely, they will do it and it will help you guys all the more. Your teachers are there for a reason. Time management. Okay, so this can be approached in two ways in terms of talking about time management. Time management in terms of leaving enough time to prepare for your exams, okay? Again, like I've mentioned, English takes a lot of time. You're going to be memorizing a lot of different bodies of work. You're going to have to write a lot as well. So give yourself enough time. So don't procrastinate, basically, okay? I would say to properly prepare for an exam for English, give yourself like a week of learning your essays and then a week of practicing to different styles of questions, right? So I know that a lot of students probably leave it to like 2 nights before. The second night before you learn your essay, the night before you practice it to like 1 or 2 different questions. That's really not enough time. And I really don't recommend that. I really recommend at least giving yourself 1 to 2 weeks to properly learn your essays and practice adapting them to different styles of questions. So time management in that manner. Also, time management in terms of the actual exam, okay? A big problem with English is that a lot of students run out of time. Running out of time is the most silly way to lose marks because you're not actually using that opportunity to like put your best work forward, okay? You've lost that time. So when you're studying, actually do time practices, okay? Get used to like writing under a time pressure, because once you're used to that, doing an exam will be all the more easier in terms of finishing on time. Okay, I even recommend putting a weight on your pens, okay, to get used to writing quicker. So yeah, time management's really important there. So this is like one of like a little tutor sentiment from one of our English tutors, Corinna, and she says that one of the most challenging things that she found hard in the early years of her HSC career was answering the question, especially ones with two parts. So I always found it useful to underline or highlight the key terms and find synonyms so I can practice linking back to the question through my argument. And that's a really good way to study, right? When we talk about practicing different styles of questions here, actually learn how to break down different styles of questions so that your essay can be adapted to these questions, right? The more you practice, just like even thinking critically about how you can answer different styles of questions, you're building up that skill so that on the HSC day or your exam day, it will be nothing new to you. You won't be freaking out about, oh my God, I've never seen this question before. I don't know how to adapt my essay. I'm just going to regurgitate my essay. Because if you're studying smart, you will be practicing, trying different styles of questions. So let's keep going. Liv says that in year 7, Liv is one of our other English tutors. In year 7, she would just try memorizing quotes by just rereading them over and over, but she'd always end up confusing them. Instead, she started using flashcards and verbal active recall and was able to learn them much faster and remember them for longer. So yeah, learning your quotes is actually a really important thing that we haven't touched on yet. You won't have cheat sheets in your exams, unfortunately, so you are expected to remember your quotes. This is one way you can definitely learn your quotes using flashcards and verbal active recall. Honestly, everyone's different and everyone's studying is different. For me, what worked well was just honestly writing them over and over and understanding what my points were for each quote, okay? If I could basically explain to a friend, what the quote was like portraying, what key ideas they were talking about and how I linked that to my whole body paragraph, that really helped me remember my quotes. I personally don't recommend rereading them over and over again either, because you're not really doing anything with that. You're just reading the quote, right? If you reread a text over and over as well, it would probably take you a very long time until you can actually start memorizing them, right? But actually understanding what your quotes are saying, using verbal active recall will definitely help you remember your quotes on the day of your exam. So back to my point about keeping your notes organized, this is a sample table format of how you can do so, okay, with your quotes, right? Chances are with your essays, you're not going to be using different quotes every essay you write. You're probably going to use the exact same bodies of analysis, okay? You're just adapting your topic sentence and thesis statements, right? So keep your quotes organized, know what you're going to use, okay? Insert the theme of like your first body paragraph, have your 3 quotes there and have the analysis done already, okay? That way you can just learn this table, keep it organized, and then just use this to adapt to any question you're given. So this is a good structure I recommend you all to be using for your texts as you're studying. So you can take a screenshot of this, or once this video is uploaded on YouTube, you can have a look at this template. Okay, so what do we mean by adapting? I've definitely mentioned adapting a lot. Let's break it down a little bit. It is never a good idea to walk into any exam room with nothing prepared. You may freeze and not know what to write. That is why it is important to have actually prepared and learned sections of analysis. Having learned these sections of analysis and bodies of writing, it is important that you adapt your essay to the question you get given on the day. So what we mean by this is it's never really a good idea to just go in with nothing, okay? Writing an essay is a hard enough skill already. Writing an essay on the spot is really like it's a very tough challenge, okay? I would say definitely go in having, a template essay prepared, okay? Having your main bodies of analysis, your main key ideas, and introduction template ready to go, okay? And all you're going to really be adjusting and particularly linking to the question is your thesis, your topic sentences, and your linking statements with your quote analysis, okay? So thinking on the spot as you write, how can I adjust my practice theses, my practice topic sentences, and my practice quote effect statements to link to my current question, okay? By practicing this as you're studying, right? So having a template essay and as you're studying, getting different questions and adapting your practice essays to those different questions, you're building up a lot of different skills there. You're building up your writing skills in terms of finishing on time, but more importantly, you're building up your adapting skills. You're getting used to the idea of how I can adapt my essay to different styles of questions. And that is one of the key things you're going to have to be very prepared to do for year 12. Oh, I don't know why I went backwards. Sorry about that. Let's keep going. Okay, introductions. So I'd say that when you're studying, introductions are a really big focus point. Okay, introductions for your essay set the scene for your essay. A lot of the time, markers read your introduction and they already kind of have an idea of what mark they're going to give after your introduction's been read. Okay, so when it comes to writing essays, you guys should get really comfortable with writing introductions. I would recommend starting with a general introduction template for each module you're studying for. Okay, and having like a key checklist of all the main elements an introduction needs. Then practice utilizing this template that you've created to a variety of different questions. So like I've said before in the adapting slide, you'll be mainly adapting your thesis and general topic statements that you make in your introduction. Okay, so again, practicing writing introductions in a timed condition to different styles of questions will really make your introduction strong from the beginning, which then sets a good impression for your marker for the rest of your essay. And this is a validated tip by one of our other tutors, English tutors. Her name's Jennifer. She says that memorizing your whole essay isn't key, but definitely memorizing the introduction is. Up until year 11, she'd be walking into the exam room only knowing her quotes and spending a solid 10 minutes trying to come up with a mid-introduction, which is a big waste of time, okay? You don't have long to write your full essays. You'll have like 40 to 45 minutes. 10 minutes to like come up with an introduction is not a viable strategy. You will need like 5 to 7 minutes max to write your introductions. So by having a template ready and learning to adapt it, you will be hitting that mark. So she also says it definitely isn't a good use of your resources. So she highly recommends memorizing your introduction so you establish a clear plan of what you will be discussing in your essay. So yeah, a very big tip there. Do not neglect handwriting, okay? As much as it sucks, you guys are still handwriting for your HSC, okay? So I know right now you're all very used to typing up your responses and typing everything up and then leaving handwriting to the last 3 days before you prepare for an exam. This is not enough time to build up those hand muscles and to get used to the fact that you are handwriting a full 1,000-word essay in 40 minutes, okay? So throughout the term, consistently start handwriting your responses, okay? And build up those hand muscles so it's not a shock to you about how much your hand will hurt by the end of your HSC, okay? So definitely get used to handwriting and again, add those weighted batteries onto the end of your pencils, whatever works for you guys. Just make sure that you're handwriting consistently throughout the whole years of your senior high school journey. Read and emulate good writing, okay? So by reading strong essays, you are also able to witness what the markers award band 6s. Therefore, you can emulate this within your own writing. However, this is not an indication for you to plagiarize or copy other people's work, okay? So we never condone plagiarizing or copying. However, you can get inspired by what you see as a good thesis statement, what we see as good analysis, okay? Even good key points or critical thinking about the question. Reading those strong essays and trying to emulate that within your own writing will help you improve as well. So this is why it might be useful to, you know, write essays, get your peers to like peer mark each other's essays and like boost each other up as well throughout your HSC. Criticize your own writing, okay? Once you've written practice essays, what is the point of writing them if you're not going to mark them yourselves or if you're not going to get someone else to mark them, right? If you've written it, you get comfortable with just having that written response and consistently doing it. But what if you're getting comfortable with a band 5 essay response, okay? Actually take the leap and take the initiative to get someone to mark your response and say, hey, what can I do better here? I've just done a written response. I think it's good, but how can I improve it to make it amazing, okay? By identifying areas you've done well and more importantly, areas that you can improve on, your marks will drastically increase in future tasks, okay? So really recommend marking and criticizing your own written pieces. Okay, so like Andrew had, I think that this is like a good personalized study plan that you guys can even use for this term in terms of approaching whatever assessment task is coming up, whether you have preliminaries, if you're in year 11, if you're in year 12, you know, you might have just finished your trial. So maybe you can use this to kind of help you guide yourself towards the HSC. So we are now in week 5. So by week 5, you should have prepared all your notes and begun finding your key quotes for your text. Week 6, I recommend begin practicing your introductions. Okay, remember your introduction is the window to your essay and the window basically to your mark for your essay. Week 7, your body paragraph should be prepared and ready to go, refined upon your analysis. Week 8, practice. Okay, just consistently practice, write practice essays, learn your essays, right? Practice adapting them to different questions. And then week 9, again, continuing practicing. Dedicate time for at least 1 to 2 practices a day. Okay, realistically, if you're doing these in time conditions, this will only take up 40 to 45 minutes of your day. And then if you read over what you're writing, you might add on 15 to 20 minutes. So an hour a day just for English. That is not that much. Okay, and I think you guys are definitely very capable of, dedicating that time to improving yourselves within English. Again, this is just a sample study plan. You can obviously adjust it for your own liking and to benefit your own study habits right now. But yeah, just having things organized and having a timeline of how you're going to improve is definitely a good way to keep you guys accountable and keep you guys on track. And this will lead to success in your assessment tasks. Okay, so one thing about this seminar is we want to recognize that everyone studies differently. Okay, while this seminar has this goal to help you guys study smarter, it is also important to try out different strategies to find out what works for you. Some things that we have put out for you guys might not actually be very successful and helpful for yourselves, and that is completely okay. But having learned these new techniques, we definitely recommend just trying to adopt a few into your studying and see if it works for you. And if it does, then hooray, we've helped you in one way. Okay, so does anyone have any questions that they'd like to ask maybe about studying for English? I know Andrew's still here, so if you even have any maths questions that you might have thought about, if anyone wants to ask. All right, looks like there might not be many questions for that. So thank you for listening, everyone. I hope that you've gained some useful insight into how you can study smarter for your senior year. This video will be uploaded on YouTube, so if you want to revisit any key points or any suggestions, you can check that out on YouTube. Thank you for listening. If you guys have no questions, you are free to leave. And if you come up with a later question, you can always feel free to email us and we can respond to you guys through email. So yeah, I hope you guys found that useful and have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.
Thank you, Ryan.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.